boy. Look at that. It's showtime. Hi. All right. So, how's everybody doing? How was your weekend? It's me. It's Christopher. One of these days, I'm going to come up with a real way to open things up here. In the meantime, yeah. So, I had a good weekend of working. I did some fun stuff. I had some fun times with my grandkids. We came up with a one-page comic. Let me see if I can pull it up. That's not going to show it. There we go. And I'll show it now. So this is our one-page comic that the grandkids and I came up with. It's, for some reason, they were talking about Jeff Bezos. You watch, he's got all kinds of robot drones and stuff. They're going to hunt me out and blow up my house now. Anyways, they were saying some funny things. And so we wrote down the funny things that they said. And I tried to capture the little dancer at the bottom of the page. But yeah, it's fun. What does it take to be an artistic provocateur? I think childish enthusiasm for just talking about things and not worrying about consequentiality. I found that out with my grandkids. But that's my big question for today. So if anybody wants to chime in on that while you're listening, please do so. Now, however, I'm going to let that question sit for a moment with anybody. And let's get back to it. All right. So I got some old sheets of paper, old covers that I've done on things. So we are going to do some skiddly-dot-da-doodly-ding. So, yeah, I thought I would draw Bezos for scuzz, you know, and cuz my mom said it could. If anybody's got any thoughts or questions or anything along the way, feel free to shoot them out. But yeah, that's the big question that's on my mind today is what does it take to be some kind of artistic provocateur? What does it take for people to look at whatever it is that you're doing with some sort of sense of, you know, oh, that's something to take note of. That's a different take or a different perspective on something that I might not have considered, you know, visually maybe, but content-wise, I think would be a closer opportunity to find those avenues. And I don't know if people got thoughts towards that, but if you do, hey, let me know. I've got this primed up piece of artboard. I do a whole bunch of different things, and one of the things that I've done for exhibitions was I would print out just comic covers that I would illustrate for people, and you know, see if other people wanted those, and just kind of it usually ended up just being stuff that I would throw in with purchases of books or the like, because I think that really the idea for most people isn't just the image of the cover, it's the original art, I find anyways, except for those people that just want their fancy collector comic covers. So I end up reusing these images as just pieces of paper for scribbly doing on. So we're going to do some of that today. I am drawing another image of Jeffrey Basils. That's what my grandson called him. Did you hear about Jeff Bezos, Grandpa? Which is what he's only ever going to be called by me from now on. Maybe we can get this to stick. Hashtag Jeff Basils. Jeffy Basils. That's what it was. Jeffy Basils. Do you know about Jeffy Basils? So yeah. So we're going to be doing some more imagery of him, just because I was going to joke and say I'm going to draw Godzilla today and then draw him anyways. But, you know, there's no need to be hurtful. Don't want to hurt all the people's feelings that want to see a drawing of Godzilla. Oh, yeah, and the other guy. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm still working on A Village Haunted. But in all honesty, I'm debating still on do I show these remaining pages or do I just leave it for the release of the book. Because when you're this close to the end of the book, you don't, do I really want to give the whole ghost away for free? Do I really want to, am I really going to follow through with printing the book? Because honestly, I'm seriously debating that anymore. I'm having a crisis of faith, folks. A crisis of faith. One or the other. So, yeah, these things come up over time where you question the legitimacy of what you do, and everybody does it. There's no such thing as anybody that's creatively centered that doesn't have these existential little moments. But at a certain point, when you watch the fact that far more people would sooner tune in to, cats making funny statements and comedy things, and people would be encouraged to support, I don't know, individuals that are trying to add something, some kind of beauty into the world. It's enough to make some of you debate things sometimes. So I had a good weekend for the most part, but I think everybody has this sort of creative crisis of self, and it helps to share that. I think that there's something honest, and we're all human. It's the people that, I never do. I tend to wonder about those people, because honestly, how do you not? If you're investing and thinking about the world around you and the people around you, how do you not in certain moments question the validity of your own actions or how you're governing yourself and your time? So yeah, ba-da-ba-da-ba-doo. That's it. There's the light, easy conversation today. My granddaughter had a really great joke for the one-page suggestion that the kids had, was doing a thing about the Jeffrey Basils dance. And that joke was, you can tune a piano, but you can't tune a fish. Why is that? So that's a joke that's going to stay with me for the rest of my life. So I'm having fun throwing down the drawing in pencil crayon first. And the name of this drawing, by the way, is going to be Hot Sexy. I'm laying it down in pencil crayon first because it's a medium that's fast and easy and you can be loose with, and it gives you that wonderful variance of tone, but it's also something that works well with other mediums. So if you're looking for a ways and a means to lay down your initial image when setting up a painting or a mixed media drawing, then I think pencil crayon's the way to go. I don't know what just happened to my screen there. Hopefully no funny business, eh? No funny business. So I sourced up a picture of Jeff Basils talking. I'm just gonna do a little twist on it, this little take on it, so that it can suit my purposes. Who knows? I don't know what he owns or doesn't own. Who knows if anybody even sees this? Who knows if anybody ever tunes in? But we're having fun. And at the end of the day, That's my principal concern. So we had a bit of fun. So I've got a yellow base down of acrylic on here, and I'm going to lay out the image here in the pencil crayon. And then after that, it's more paint, mixed media stuff, maybe some ink in here. I'm not sure. But we're going to put some stuff to monkey around with the surface a little bit, I think, as well. Just Berskes. So, got to have some fun, folks. So reference is a good thing. I know that some people, go against reference or suggest that maybe working from a reference image or being able to relate something is not as original or unique. And okay, well, it's tracing. I could understand that. I really could. Or just photo capturing and photo manipulating. Come on, put some effort into it. But drawing a thing takes a moment. And at the end of the day, none of it matters anyways. So I get worked up over it. We're just making some pretty pictures, but so I don't know if, at the end of the day, if it's something that matters to anybody else or not about the process that we each individually go through and the self-evaluation that we each of us individually have on maybe our own capabilities, or maybe does what I'm doing at all matter, and that's honest and it's legitimate. But for myself, what I find helps is just to push on, to just push through. What do I need to be a provocateur? Do I need to be somebody who does something with audacity to just challenge whatever, some convention, or deconstruct something, be postmodern? I don't know. At the end of the day, I'm a person that draws and paints, and I think that sometimes that's enough. And if it isn't, well, I'm not overly concerned, because that's enough for me. And that's what we got to ask ourselves. What is our journey about? And what we're doing about? Is it about some greater construction of ourselves and some greater association of ourselves that we're hoping to come out of our efforts? Or is it simply something that I'm compelled to do this thing? I need to do it. It's part of what makes me who I am. And take that as enough to be legitimate. Take that as enough to carry forward. That's enough of a thing that makes me feel grounded and centered enough in my exploration of my own creativity. If other people get it, or if other people dial into it, hey, that's great. That's perks. That's benefits. But if it's really, you're doing it because of your authentic self, I don't think that stuff matters at the end of the day. I mean, economically, it'd be nice if there was some return, but even saying that, conversely, I'm not, it's an afterthought for me to say to people, hey, you want to help out and support Patreon, yada, yada, yada. And, whereas it seems to be really front and center for others. And I don't know. I don't know what to say out of that. I don't know if to question whether or not that makes it more valid, or if it's more provocative not to do that, and to say, and if bearing in mind that is there any weight to being provocative in the first place is still something I haven't got a firm hold of. So, that's a challenge. It's a challenge, I think, for everybody to sort of say, here's me, here's what I do, and how I go about it. And that's it. There's some merit for you. That's what you're getting, folks. And just allow that to be for itself. Allow that to stand as what it is. The rest of the stuff that comes along with your creative output, with your vision, I don't know, maybe your politic, if that's an important part of why people do as they do, maybe those things become associatively part of what you have to say or not. I don't know. And at the same time, it's different choices on whether or not that matters to people. Does it have to say something to have import anymore? It feels like there's an awful lot of garbage out there. Sorry, that has a lot to say, but has no meat. It has no foundational basis where the work itself has, I think, had effort put into it in a lot of those instances. And so that the message supersedes the facility of the work, but then we label it as something else, or we use some other vernacular to cover up the fact that creatively it may well feel a little bereft. In other cases, there's people that find work and attach that ad as some message or ideal that they hold, and that comes through with their piece. Is that provocative? Maybe to the person that it challenges their convention, or it challenges how they see things, how they associate the world may well work. And, does that give that more merit or not? I don't know. I think that at the end of the day, when it comes to art, for me, at least, at the very least, for me, it comes down to, do I like the image? And secondary to that comes down, what is the context of said image, or just to say something, blah, blah, blah. That's never been a principal concern for me. Is that something neat that I look at and go, oh, cool. I like how they did said thing. And I don't know about others. Maybe that's because I'm a maker. Maybe that's because I'm a person that spends X amount of time doing this. If I wasn't, if I was a layman out there in the world that didn't take the time to develop a facility for drawing, then maybe that wouldn't matter as much. Maybe it's oh, cool fart joke, and I move on, or whatever. I'm being minimal when I'm saying fart joke, but I think the point is still there, that at the end of the day, it's not a grandized statement that's coming out of whatever this specific work might be, and that this shouldn't matter, maybe, or at least in a lot of cases, a lot of people it doesn't. So that's the challenge, right? How do we do something that says something for us, says something to us? A. B. Is that something that may challenge someone else's conventions, and does that have merit or meaning? And C. Does it aren't necessarily, or any kind of image necessarily have to do that in the first place? And there's the rub. I'd be curious. Oh, we got Jim Lou on, just jumped in. Hey, Jim, how you doing? Hey, thanks very much. That's going to pop that on the screen, Jim. That's very nice of you. We're drawing Jeff Basils. This is a piece I'm calling Hot Sexy. That's my big pithy take on him. Thanks for chiming in there, Jim. If you've got any thoughts towards whether art needs to be provocative and where that stands, please feel welcome to do so. Or does art need to be authentic, or does art, whatever, any kind of expression really doesn't. We don't have to be stuck with that label of art, because that means different things to different folks. Some people are be like, art, and that's enough to be out of the conversation in the first place. So, all right. So we got a base of the drawing, and yeah. So I wanted to play with a couple of different things on this. One of the things I wanted to play with was to put take some card and to put. I've got a little. Let me see if I can find it. Just give me 1 second. I'm so sorry. Here we are. Okay, so I'm going to take a palette knife here and some acrylic, and I'm going to monkey around here around the image. And so what this is going to do is it's going to put some little textures and little bits of business around the principal shape of the drawing. Just a little bit of granulation and whatnot. Just trying to find some cool ways to say, hey, you know, it outlines the image, but at the same time pushes us around a little bit by having to make us do a little bit more hot take around this drawing. And so hopefully that when I go over this with another subsequent layer, you're going to see some of this come through in a more consistent and solid way, but at the same time muted out so that further mark making that goes over it has the differentiation in the basis and the form, but at the same time is blended in and disappeared into the image itself. So I like doing stuff like that. I find that really fun. I think it challenges and pushes an image around, and makes me have to be a little bit more aware as I'm going through a composition of where things are and where the drawing is in and of itself. I'm not a provocateur by any means. I'm just making some pretty pictures, and at the end of the day, that's all I got. But because I find that when somebody espouses their own politic and somebody espouses their own perspective on, hey man, here's how the world works, you're going to get two things. You're going to get your echo chamber. That's exactly how the world works. Anybody that doesn't agree with this is stupid. You're going to get that, and you're going to get your contradictories. You know, the people that will say, no, I'm completely against your perspective on things. I think it works the opposite way, and I'm going to argue with you until my lips fall off for some reason. And at the end of the day, how does it really affect either of our independent living lives? Is it going to make one of us ahead of the other, or depending on whatever the outcome of that conversation is? So what's the point? All right, so I've got some fun little shapes and stuff cut into the space around the initial drawing here. And fun! So now what I thought I'd do is take a brush and, hey, let's chop in his face a little bit. Chop his face in. Just going to put some paint in the lid of the, there we go. So don't stick your brush in the container itself, because if you've got dirty water, You just dirtied all your paint. If it's white, guess what? It's more yellow or whatever it is now. Okay, so I'm going to put some of these little punches of value in Jeff Basils' face. So, yeah, end of the day, what's the intent? Is the intent to make a statement, or is the intent to make an image? Or is the intent to make an image that makes a statement? And how do you function on that level all the time? How do you spend all of your time, like this is, I have to say this, I have to say that, I have to say this. It's one thing to talk about a theme or a concept. I like to, sort of suggest and explore an idea. But it's another thing entirely to say, this is my specific social statement on A, B, C, every time. It's got to get exhausting. We're going to hit some heavier whites in a moment. I'm just trying to add a little bit of movement and form into just the flat yellow that we have in his face now. Bald. That's terrible. I'm going bald. I'm allowed to. At a certain age, we're all just going bald. This is just a chunky brush to just throw some, just cutting some shapes. Like dancing. I think that when it comes to exploring who you are creatively, and if anything that you do, it's one thing if it resonates with others or has some kind of merit in that regard, or amuses them from a few moments. I think a lot of what any creatives do is just, it's greatly unrewarding for the amount of time and effort that it goes to put into work. It's the fact that we have a society that says, hey, I got 23 seconds for this. And I think that level of ridiculousness is going to work against us soon. And what I mean by that is that the more that we're going to dismiss things, the more that we're not going to appreciate the time it might take to truly enjoy a piece for a second. I think that's going to bite us in the butt. I got a little bit of just going to spray some water on here for a second. All right. So, okay. I got sidetracked by something. I'm so sorry for that. Where was I? Yeah, let's make a mess. This is an acrylic marker, so it has the ability to be used much like a pencil or a pen, but of course it's paint. So it has different practical applications to it that I'm exploring as I go here, but I think that it allows you to do little punches of, hey, what now? And whatever it is that you're working on. Well, we're going to try some different fun here. I got some inks I want to go at with, so let's see what they do for us. Is this dry enough? Okay, so I'm going to make a little more noise today than I normally make because I find that the biggest problem that I have with doing these things live is that I don't get to dry things out. So bear with me. Using a fan over your image just helps to expedite the drying of these different materials that you're putting down, which allows you to speed up through the process. Keeps your image flat too, so that's nice. But this is a hair dryer that I got from my wife. Hey, honey, could I borrow your hair dryer? Why? It's a good question. It's a very valid question. All right. So we went to the dollar store recently, Laurie and I. Tell us all about it, Chris. Boy, am I glad you asked. So that I could get some silly little things that you might not normally consider that you need. In this case, one of those silly little things is a little water paint tray here. And this I like very much because this very much is something that I can carry around with me. It has a little lid that goes over top of it, which is nice. Okay, a friend of mine just sent me a fantastically ridiculous assessment of the last book that I worked on. He just got his copy in the mail, and he had a fantastic complaint about. I like it. It's a little. The color is there's not enough blue, and I think you need to do something about that. And then he followed up with a text 5 minutes later and said, "Nope, I got farther along in the book. There's more blue. It's fine." Just, yep. So this is some ink that I'm putting down and playing with a little bit here. It's a little smudgy already because of the pencil crayon, but we're going to work that in. Now I could do a little bit of working spray fix over top of each surface so that, there's some separation between A and B, but I'm going to leave it for now because things will punch in and punch out as we go. I'm trying to clean off the excess, but ink is a very, very much a different surface than very much a different surface application. I'm sorry, than of course watercolors or acrylics or anything like that, because it tends to have some different little properties, some different little things that you can do. Well, here, I'll get to this in a second. I'm going to take the orange ink that I'm using and I'm going to push it around outside of the head itself. But you can see already that there's some separation happening because of the acrylic that's underneath it. But I want to push that a little bit farther. So what I've got here is some bleach. Yep, that's the bleach. So I'm going to spray some of that on there, give it a second, and then and take that off. So what it should do is, yeah, see, it gives this wonderful little spattering that goes on through the ink. And I like that a lot. I like stuff like that. I've been talking about showing a little bit more of some of the crazy things that I do as I'm working in the studio and on drawings. In the last couple of videos that I've done here on YouTube, I've sort of shown some of the different approaches I have when I'm working. But I thought I'd take that a little bit farther and just actually show those as I'm working on a piece. So, see, I just want to tamp out any excess that's in there. But you can see, I hope you can see in the camera now, how it's done this fantastic. You can see the spattering of the value now that's in there, and so it's punching through these different color layers. And then, of course, another nice thing about this ink is that we can work it around and have some fun with it and schmutz it. And because we've got this interfered with surface to start with, it really lets us have some play. The other thing that should pop through a little bit more here in this texture in the background was the fact that we did put do that palette knife work with the white. There we go, a little shot there. And again, I'm trying not to have that effect too much on the surface of the face. I just really want to push this effect in the background. And so I'll pull it up to the camera so you can see it. You can see where it's wet, and you can see where I've flecked with the ink with just a little spritzer. So now as I take it out, you can see that white just trying to hop right through there. It's a really fun way to give some texture, to give some variance into your background. So I'm going to put a little bit of brown in here too. It's like a nice chestnut brown. This ink I have here, which is the brush I've been using for the ink. Here it is. So I'm just throwing down some of the different areas, different volumes of value. Pushing that around a little bit, using the paper towel to dab it out so that it lets me keep moving without worrying about drying time, and at the same time cuts down on some of the brush stroke, the movement of the brush and then the marks that it's making, flattens that out a little bit, does some more delicate blending than the brush strokes themselves are doing per se. I kind of like effects like that. And again, this is an ink that I'm using here as well. Now, if I had fixed the pencil work before this process here, I would have much less of the gradation happening that you're seeing, like the little pulls of. Oh, underneath, before I forget, underneath I have wax paper laid on my board because I tend to work fairly wet on wet on wet, and then we've got the spraying of bleach and so on and so forth. I don't want to permanently make a mess of my drawing board. Got a yellow in here. So these are just all these different colors of ink that I keep kind of kicking around. And they tend to be really workable, which of course I like. Let's put some more orange back down. But I've had inks like this for years, and whenever I get the opportunity to buy another color, I'll do so. But I try to keep my palette somewhat limited, and the reason for that is so that, you know, the more variation in what I'm putting down, it starts becoming about playing with all of that. It starts becoming playing with the mixing of color and playing more around with representation and everything else than it does of just throw it down on the surface and see what happens. So much like we've done the spattering with the grease, you can do the same thing with flicking color down onto the surface. You can do the same thing with a toothbrush and flickering it this way. So there's a number of different methods, but I find that using the bleach like that and how it sort of strips that color apart, I find that really something that just catches my eye. So now I'm putting more down here of this orange value. And let it run a little bit if it wants to. I don't care. You're going to do it. You're going to give it a go. There you are. It's a strange thing to want to have your ink running around, but again, I'm just looking for different images and shapes and things that are going to come out of the application themselves. Yes, yeah, it just sort of took out what had actually happened there with it running. So that's all right. Well, that's fine. We'll do it with another medium in a little bit. Okay, so I'm feeling pretty good with some of this texture and whatnot that we're building up in the space. And I'm just going to carry that ink through here, and then we'll do another application of the bleach. See what that gives us. So I have two different spritzers. One is water and one is bleach. And I keep the two of them. The bleach is in the light blue, and then the water is in the clear, and that's the way that I have to remember the separation of the two of them, one from the next. So I'm letting this bubble up, do its thing, separate the color inside the, separate the pigment inside of the ink. Playing with that a little bit. Now, bleach can just eat the heck out of your brushes. Something to consider. All right, so we're going to hit some more brown over here. Today's listening is A Moon-Shaped Pool by Radiohead. I try to tell people what I'm listening to each day, for those of you that aren't aware. And this is what I'm working to right now. Earlier this morning, it was Led Zeppelin. Okay, so now by using the texture of the what the hell is this called? Bounty, I don't know, something like that, whatever that is, paper towel. By using the texture of that, we're getting this fun pattern in the clothing. Almost like it was planned. It wasn't. There we go. So now this is the yellow ink that I'm going over the flat acrylic yellow that we have for our base to just give a little bit of zoom. So I'm just flickering that. I covered I put my hand in front so that I can really just, any of that sort of stuff that flicks ahead of where I want it to be, I want to control that. So I'm going to, censor the area with my hand as best I can. There's other far more practical ways to do it, but that's how I'm doing it. So buckle up. Okay, so there we go. So now we're going to get into old Jeffy Basils' face here. Now, there's a couple different ways I thought of approaching this, but I think that what we're going to try to do right now is to get some colored crayon in here. What kind of colored crayon, Chris? Well, I'm glad you asked, Billy. Got a fun little set of pencils this week that I really wanted to put in, try out a little bit, have some fun with. Just picking some different tones. So I'm not trying to hold on to everything all at once. Okay, so we should still be able to work some of the values in. The surface should still allow us to get in here and make some marks. And because we've already got this black pencil crayon in here, it's a little bit's going to be shifting those marks around as well. But that's okay. I want to, just give me a second here. The noise again. I just want to dry some of these flicks of color, because if my hand goes over, I'm going to make them all up. All right. Okay, so what else do I want? There we are. White. Hey, Epi. Okay, everybody. Where is... These are the colors you get inside. They never are. And I'm just going to steal the green out of here. Okay. All right. So there's my palette. That's the nice thing about these colored pencils, is that they sort of tell us what colors are being used. Okay. It's going to help me out here. Hey, good helper. So I've also got, well, let's just start here. So I think it's going to make me have to, yeah, it's going to, okay, just give me a sec. still got to seal, for goodness sakes. So I'm going to put a little bit of this varnish on here just to sort of seal a layer. See how much I can get away with. Yeah, okay. I don't want to put a ton on it all at once. So this is a little sponge roller. Just going to let me spread this around for a second. And I'm trying to seal in some of the image this way, some of this pencil work, so that if I work over top of it, it's not going to come running away with me. This is a satin finish on this, so. All right, give me a sec. Try this again for a second. That's pretty fast, especially when you're using a hot anyway. All right. So hopefully that's going to allow me to make some marks on it that aren't going to immediately get smudged around. We'll see. We'll see. Hey, look at that, happy days, huh? The days are happy once again. Worked right into that surface. You can see how I punched through there. It's all right. That's okay. Yeah, see, I did it again. Jeez, okay. Still too sharp. Got to let it dry a little bit more. In the meantime, let's get some white paint and get at this sucker. I'm going to put these. I need to figure out my working space around me just a little bit more, because I've got X amount of room and I need more. We'll work that out. We'll figure that out. Right in the center of his nose. Of all the places, huh? That's all right. Clean away the surface nonsense. There we go. Smaller brush, smaller brush. Okay, so I'm just coming in here now and just cutting some shapes. More than I'm specifically worried about, you know, a nice clean, smooth finish on it. I'm just trying to get down some of the values on Hot Mess or whatever the heck, Hot Sexy, I think I called this. See, I changed my mind a lot while I'm working. It's one of the things about work in mixed media is that it lets you be a little more fluid in your decision making, and that I might start working on a piece in a certain way and then take a left turn because of comfort or how the direction of the piece is going. So if I could advocate that for people, you know, allow yourself that ability to bend. Allow yourself the ability to take that little bit of a turn and see where that goes for you. So just finding the surfaces here, the little raised areas on his face. Just throwing down some marks. cutting some shapes. If there's one thing I could advocate, paint in shapes. Don't think of it as lines and where lines go and where things are, and just look at it as shapes. I found that since I started realizing that what I'm trying to do is put together the shapes of his face, that it changed the way that I was working. Well, not just his face, but in general. So some of the things that we approach a piece on, that becomes frustrating for us. Well, maybe it's because what we're trying to get together with, what we're trying to actually put down on that surface isn't necessarily the right approach. You'll find that image, you'll pull that image out over time by allowing yourself to explore in your creativity, to find some of those marks. All right. Yeah, and I use my hand a lot as well. It's almost like that's a tool as well. It's probably not the best practice, but whatever works, huh? Port in a storm, folks. Port in a storm. A couple of these little spots, I'm getting a little bit chunky. Not a smooth hit on the surface, where these little areas where I really want to punch that white. Bend in my leg. What's silly about this is that I'm going to start hitting some flesh tone in here in a second. And some of this white is going to run away. It's in the words of Doug Henning, like magic. Mm-hmm. Okay. A little too thinned out there. Okay, so why did I put that on tight? Yeesh. Okay. I'm going to use this. Yeah, I'm going to use this guy. No sharper. No sharper hits in here. So the flesh tone isn't everywhere. On the one side of the face, I'm being really a little bit sparing with it. That's where I'm planking it, where I'm laying it down. I don't know how crisply that's coming through in the video, but I'll scan this at the end so that you can see what I'm referring to. The yellow is still there underneath in the skin, but I'm trying to replace a lot of it with this flesh tone. All right. I'm so happy. There should be a solid feeling when you're working on that you're going towards your goal. You're going to do things that make you realize, come on, what did I do that for? But you can always go back and work it in some more. You can always go back and push things forward and push things back. And honestly, that's, I think, part of the fun of anything that we're doing, any of the visual stuff that we're exploring, is the fact that we can bring an image to the world that we've got stuck in our head, or an idea of something that we wanted to say. And no one has any control over that but us. It's that whole thing of your work is your own. Now, mind you, if you're working for somebody, if you're working on a project for a client, if you're working on storyboarding, or somebody's written some script you have to stick to, you don't have as much autonomy there, other than the way that you craft your image. But even then, the problem with working with somebody else is they might say, no, that's not the way we want you to do that. Do it this way. And I'm going to be honest, I don't have a lot of patience for editors. I really don't. Editors should be there to inspire, suggest, and get the hell out of the way. Now, if you're looking for somebody that says, hey, you spelled tapioca wrong, oh yeah, good. Editor's good for that. But otherwise, get out of the way. We don't need them. There's going to be a great deal of blowback on that from a lot of people because they know someone who's an editor. I don't care. If that person's editorial style isn't one of just sitting there alongside the creative and saying, hey, you spelled tapioca wrong. Well, okay, so as I've gone through here, pushing down some values, bringing up some values, and I don't know how clearly they're coming through in the camera. It looks a little bit muddled in the moment, and it's not picking up on the pinks at all. But there's a lot there. I'll find a little bit more in a minute. But okay. So I'm going to do the same thing again over top, that white, make it jump. And then after that's all dried, that's when I get to throw in some pencil marks. But I tried to rush that process way too much today. All right. I can be a little cheeky and do this. I don't know if that green's hitting in the camera at all, but I got a tiny little bit of green that I've initially put in with the paint marker, but then I pulled back away with the brush so that I can move it around a little bit more as a blender. Just trying to give a little bit of shape to this space. I gotta use a different cloth. I think this one's got bleach on it. Okay. Boom, boom. I know, don't do that. Boom, boo-doo-doo-doo. So I don't know, experiment. Like these paint markers don't just have to be used to put the marks down. You can pull pigment out of them. So this is just pulling up those surface marks again, but being a little more sparing about which ones I'm chasing after. And that the different layers, these different little marks and smudges that I've put down as I go, over time they build up that wonderful variation of light and stuff that we have in our skin. I really wish you could see this a little more clearly for the colors. But there's greens in there and flesh tones in there. And so as I move my way around the face and pursue some of these little avenues of placements of value, these little streets that sort of find their way around our faces. Just trying to get in some of those little marks, get in those little bits of surface there. Raise that area up, which pushes that area down. There's a guy named Hans Hofmann, and I refer to him a fair amount when he talked about the push and pull of color and value, and how this putting this value down here pulls that value up there, and vice versa. There's a truth in that. It's just you just got to find it. You just got to follow that. Sorry, you get into that zone, you forget to talk and walk people through the process, and I apologize for that. It's just, I'd be saying the same, I'm still just getting some pigment punched in here and there. Have I told you about my love and fascination of spaghetti? It's the process that I'm going to use is not the same as the process that you're going to use. There's going to be things that I'm going to do like, what the hell is he doing it that way? And there's going to be things that I do and go, oh, I never thought about that. And vice versa again. That's one of the beauties about exploration, and for all of us to try to find out ways of communicating in this world and expressing ourselves and pursuing, visual form, and how we can, best interpret it with our ability. Is this necessary anymore in an age where the point and click of a computer can do things, the shutter of a camera can do things? Is it necessary anymore to have a facility for drawing or painting somebody instead? I don't know. I'm not overly concerned about the validation of that as I am for just, it's something I've done. It's something I can do. It's something I'm going to continue to pursue. And the right person sees what we're doing, and they connect to it, and that's it. That's the whole thing. That's the enchilada. What do you say beyond that? What more is there? Really? So now I'm coming in with a little spotting here of some red, a couple little bumps. Little pushes. So the way that I'm applying paint to the surface, of course, really mutes down the initial value of, the heavy contrasted drawing that I initially did. And I can put some of that back in. I'm going to put some of that back in, but right now I'm just sort of following along and following through to pulling those marks that I put down earlier, some of that, pulling it back up, pulling up that depth again. And the paint markers are great in different applications, and what I'm using it for right now is basically a paint source. So makes it a lot cleaner to work this way. You don't make as much of a mess. Now, this is also a paint pen. Excuse me. So there we go, pulling that eye back up again. Working in these crevices, these grooves on the face. But just this bit that I've got on the brush now, I don't want to overinvest in putting down more and more black. I just want to softly come in, pulling up the values that I've got in here already. And then we'll do a couple little bops. But right now, by blending it in, you get some of that red and some of that black pulling up its own highlights this way. I wish that I had a better camera tuned on this, or I figure out my lighting better. It's like I need to have somebody who's much better at that than I am to come over to the studio and sort this out for me. Hey, how you doing, Scott? Oh, I'm so happy to hear you're back working on your book. Your books are fantastic, sir. We got Scott Circlin has jumped in with us, folks. If you have an opportunity, please look up The Young and the Dead. They're fantastic. He just put his 5th book out. Really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed all 5. Let's be honest. It's nice to see somebody following through on a full project and good at that as an independent. We need to celebrate more of these. Okay, so like I said, just use the tip of the paint marker and pull up just a little bit of material. Just pull up a little bit of application on that surface, because you're going to more finely control it as you move it around the image. That's really nice of you to say that, Scott. That's really... I hope that any of these streams that I'm doing are of benefit to people, that some of the weird ways that I work on stuff is coming across to folks. I know that there's no real consistency of what Chris is doing each day. I'm the first one to admit it. And the reason for that is that I'm hard to pin down like that. That's I've got so many different things on the go at the same time. But if some of the different ways that I work are of benefit for people, then super duper. So I'm drawing Godzilla today, folks. That's what the image is today. We got here. Oh, Seven's jumped in. Hi, Seven. Working and lurking. Love it. Shalom. All right, so now I'm going to put in some of this little bit of detail under the neck, but because I'm muting the black that is the acrylic paint marker that I have, it allows me to embed that color into some of the colors that are underneath. And well, working layer into layer into layer into layer and allowing yourself to tamp down stuff, does it make it take it a little bit longer than just pow hitting that solid color? Sure it does, but you get a little more control and you get a little more depth, I think, in what you're putting down. So like when I was in school, in high school there, one of the things, I had a teacher that said, don't use black. And if you can get away with it, don't use black. Which is like one of those things where you're like, shut up. Yeah, I use black. I don't want to sit here. What the hell? Black. But what he meant was, if you can find ways to pull, and I learned this eventually, of course, but if you can find ways to pull deeper values out, you can use little touches of black, but you can get a fantastic gradated black out of using a raw umber and a deep blue. And try it out. It's rather than just going hard black into stuff. If you're doing painting work, try that, because it changes the game a little bit. All right, I'm going to let that sit for a moment. And so in case anybody came in late and missed out some of the bleach process that I used for the inks, because this has got ink, acrylic, and so on and so forth in here. We're going to do a little bit more of that. I wanted to let it sit down first, but in the interim, I wanted to let the lower part of the page dry so that I can come in now with some pencil crayon and throw in a couple of little values into the shirt and into the suit so that I can pull up some of these textures and some of these different chromatic changes that are going to move the eye around a little bit, but also give a little bit of a sense of shape and form to the shirt, to the clothing, right? But at the same time, it adds a little something and carries us, like I said, around the image. And ideally, that's really what we want the viewer to do, is not just look at one part or look at the image as a flat thing. But if we can convince people that there's some interesting stuff. Sorry, I got a hiccup. If we can convince people that there's some interesting stuff going on to move them around in there, let's do it. And don't be too precious about it. Don't worry about it. You're going to make some mistakes. Oh, don't trust the robots. Thank you, Seven. Keep pressing that like button and show some love. Thank you again, Seven. That's very nice of you. I got to get a drink. Sorry, I want a hiccup here. Rather than looking at grays for your shadows, try a light blue first and pull some of those marks in. Pull in some of those textures when you are putting down some colors, and see if you can start to formulate some of that shadow. So if you can draw together some of those marks that are going to be what you would traditionally approach a gray as, and then what that'll give you is the ability to decide how deep you want to go into that. And if you use that sort of a language of the blues as your softening light, your grays ostensibly, you will get all kinds of fun fun things happening from that you can then pursue farther and farther along. Oh, that's very nice. Seven's glad they made me laugh. Oh, I like laughing. Laugh is good. So I'm coming in. This is again with this blue, but what I'm doing is that because I'm putting a little bit of applied pressure on this part of the image that has the existing pencil crayon mark, the black pencil crayon that I used in the initial execution of drawing the image, you can see how it's pulling some of that darkness back up again, but we're also embedding that same shadow tone that we're using in there. And now I'm going to go over a little bit more lightly in here. So if you go over this spot with an acrylic white, you're actually going to pop up some of that blue now. Like it's just this sort of wonderful way of how it works, the application of different material together. We're giving a little more dimension and form to the lapels of this jacket, but again, using this diffused tone, this light blue. Try it out. Try it out and let me know how that works for you. Try it out and let me know how that goes. This is my background is doing portrait work, and I would do portraits of people, and then I would draw comics on the side. That was because it was that thing that you got a calling towards. I want to tell stories, and but I'm feeling a little constrained trying to tell stories through this flat two-dimensional singular image approach or format, which is what I felt was where I was feeling cut in on portraits. Like you just sort of, you just got to just do the portrait. Just draw the picture. Just come on. Well, I want to tell a story, and clients aren't paying you to tell a story about stuff necessarily. When it comes to portrait work, clients are paying you to do a picture of their Aunt Pauline. And after a while, you got to say, enough Aunt Paulines. Now, I've still got that black pencil crayon nearby as well, my drawing pencil crayon, which is, I use like a Laurentian. I've said this before, I'll say it again. These little triangular pencils, square pencils that they put out for pencil crayons are always harder lead than the circular pencil crayons that I have found. And they both have very different uses that you're going to get out of those. It's just a matter of finding out which one works for you in whatever way. So I'm happy with some of these colors I got around the eye now. And now that this is drying up, I can come in very lightly. And I mean that when I say very lightly, because I'm working on a paper surface and I can easily pull that up. And I don't want to do that. No. So, okay, so now I'm coming in, and this is a orange. And so hopefully, I don't know how well the camera is picking it up. 7, we're always leveling up our work. 7 has said something interesting. I'm going to post this up for us all to talk about. I'm taking time so I can level up my work. Ideally, and now bear with me, and I'd love to hear other people's perspective on this, because this is just mine. We're all leveling up our work. We're all actively pursuing bettering ourselves creatively. And if this is our chosen field of practice, then optimally we're trying to improve ourselves at it as we go along. And those that do that, you get reward from that. You're going to get some return out of that. Those that say, well, this is how I work and that's it. and they don't do anything to further objectively push themselves out of that comfort zone or to push themselves creatively forward, are going to find themselves bored, not enjoying the process and not enjoying what it is that they're doing. So I think objectively, trying to improve as we all go along. I've done 31 books. I'm on my 31st book right now. Let's correct that. And the earliest books that I did, whoo, yeah. hey, they're different. But as I go, there's improvement, as we move along with that, and it's inevitable that you're going to learn to grow. It's an industry that expects something from you because they've seen you do that, but at the same time can understand and appreciate a little bit those that want to try outside that box. And I highly encourage and recommend everybody do so. Yeah, you do not want to be bored. You do not want to be pigeonholed into, oh, that's what this person does. Even in the course of doing a series of books, like Scott has done his Young and Dead, and again, anybody else that's here, go check it out. And yet you can see it's a wonderfully consistent title, but and a nice quality of it too. But you can still see that there's little tiny things that as Scott goes through the issues, oh ho ho, look what he did there. We all grow inevitably as we over time from the efforts that we make along the way. So as I'm going and doing these little punches of hit, like these little hits of the black around the outside edge, this I'm just touching spots. I'm not filling in, just little shapes is what I'm putting down here. And the reason for that is if you do a solid outline, well, now it's a cartoon. If you do a solid definition of form that says, well, it's entirely a contoured shape, that's the problem, is that you've now established this solid contour of volume, and it stops having that fluidity that of the way we perceive things with our eye, that dimensionality, that it's like a lattice of putting the different planes of things, of objects, of people, and spatial relationship to the area around them, almost like it's all latticed together, like it's all somehow conjoined. And if you want to get into, string theorem, yeah, sure, everything conjoined, but I'm just talking about from the perspective of this tends to work into that, or you contextualize this in that space, and so if you can, try not to give hard, solid outline definition to whatever it is that you're putting down. And if you're going to do so, don't just do with one flat color. Do it with a number of different. Do it. This little spot here is in orange, and this little spot here is in green, and really play with that and push and pull those shapes around. And okay, so here comes the part that's going to upset somebody. So I also like to do this thing where in certain places and in certain ways, I'm just putting marks. I'm just, at this point, basically scrumbling up my areas that are painted. I'm going over with the pencil crayon, and you can actively see the lines that I'm putting in. So I'll try to hold that up so that you can actively see some of the lines that are in the cheeks and the eye now. Right here. Because as the whole image comes together, those should flatten down and those should just blend in. That shouldn't be the thing that your eye gets tied up in. All right, so finding some of the shapes in his face, moving around with those lines. I love lines and faces. I would much rather draw an 85-year-old adult than I would a 2-month-old baby, because 2-month-old babies are just contours. They're just these round things, and there's all this definition that you'll see in people's faces as they get older, and I love to pursue those lines. Don't want to be bored. Nope, never want to be bored. Always keep turning, sometimes spitting, often tumbling. So putting in some of this orange, these little punches of value here in these random different little areas and ways, ideally is going to just embed them into the values that we already have, but it's going to give a little bit of movement, a little bit of shape and form. That's the thought. That's the thesis. Put it in soft in certain places and harder in others. Gives you a little control over how that goes down. Now, here's another fun thing. What more fun, Christopher, can it be? Yes, it can. All right, let's see if this works. So I modulated the surface a little bit in the early periods of this image, and I put some little raised textures, and I want to see if I can bring any of that out. I don't know if it is or not. So I'm looking over at my monitor here. My traditional setup is to the right. My monitors are to the left. And so I keep turning over here to look to my monitors to see how this looks on screen. So please bear with me. So I'm just trying to roughly go through here, see if I can get any of these to just pop up a little bit more. And I'm going to do so with the blue as well. And I think that the blue is actually doing a better job of defining some of this texture that's in here. And I've got the pencil on its side, and I'm going through very lightly. But ideally, you can see how it's grabbing a hold of some of these little textural bits. And so when I scan this, I think that it'll pop up a little bit better, and I'll do so afterwards. All right. So you can do a couple little punches. Add a brush. There it is. Okay. Whoops. Sorry. I'll come in with white now, clean this up. Made a boo-boo. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. We're not going to be upset about it. We're going to be okay. I watched a tutorial the other day of somebody who was doing this really neat oil pastel thing. And very, very talented person. And I don't want to call them out while I do this example, but every time something didn't work out, they're just on the verge. It's fine. We could fix that. Don't worry about that right now. If you're watching, don't look at that part. Oh boy. Just little bumps. That's all we're putting in here. Little bumps. Little bumps of of value. It's a thin line, and then just pull it down. Okay? Okay. All right. So, what was I doing? Oh, yeah, the blue. I was very excited. I got these pencil crayons at 3 sets for $4 each at the local dollar store. And they do a good job. They do a good trick. So I'm throwing in a little bit of light cross-hatching into this background area. Why? Just for scuzz. Just to give a little bit more something to move us around. And because I've got some of this really slight line work in the face and in the suit, this is actually going to, connect the volume of space around the body, the person. So this is, again, pencil on its side, going over this pre-existing texture that I laid down. You can see some of that jumping through there. I can't remember what I called this. I think I was going to call it Hot Sexy. So this is the companion piece for the little Jeff Basils thing that I just did with my grandkids. That was a fun weekend. I'm going to do a couple little more white hits as I go. But in the interim, I'm going to get silly at this point, folks. So here's the thing that always makes me laugh. I've known people that when you do something in a drawing or a painting that you're doing, will look at you and go, "Oh, now you ruined it." How do you know I ruined it? How do you know this wasn't the intent the entire time? Oh, I don't like it now. Okay, that's good. It's just have fun, man. It's art. But I love putting words in things because I'm ridiculous. So this little bubbled pattern, sorry, I moved off the camera. The little bubbles that you see through here is where I flicked some ink down, and in other places underneath that where you see the reverse, the negative bubbles, those are where I did a wash of ink and I spritzed some bleach over, and that pushed the ink around and separated it up a little bit. So you can get all kinds of, it's not going to show up. You can get all kinds of different effects if you just play with things together. I do this a lot. I'll put words into things, or I'll put other images over top of images. The piece that I've got behind me on the wall, I don't know. Yeah, okay, you can see it. This is it's got the one saying, "Hey Bob, you want to see my dance moves?" The guy says, "No thanks, Lou, not right now." And the reason that I put things like that in my paintings is because that's my humor. That's the now you were thick, 7. There's got to be somebody 7 said, "No, what, you put that in an illustration? Now you ruined it." Just like I was pointing out a moment ago. So I don't know. It's just my sort of weird perspective on the world and sense of humor coming through. But I like to do that. I've done that like that for years, and I don't see any chance of me stopping. So I've got all of this. I'm going to put some brown in here, and I'm going to punch it with the ink, like I told you earlier, that we've been doing that. So, oh no, this is the orange I've just pulled up. I'm sorry. That's all right. I can reload my orange thing while I'm here. Okay, so this is just a little ice tray that I put different values of ink in, and use those. I was asked to do at one school. I went in to show how I go about doing mixed media stuff, and yeah, just bring some of the stuff you used. You know, boy, oh boy, you think I was staying at that school for a week? I brought so much junk. You try to figure out how do you compartmentalize all this as much as you possibly can. That's it's tricky and fun. But so this is just an ink wash that I'm putting down here, and you can lay the whole thing down, and even if it isn't a nice thick consistency and stuff, we're gonna mess with this in a minute, because I can't leave anything alone without farting with it a little bit. And then of course, just as we do with Photoshop, where you'll use the stroke function in Photoshop or in other, it's probably called something else, in other different drawing tools and computer tools, where you outline the letters that you've put down. We're going to do a bit of that too, but so it's dripping a little bit. I don't care. I'm fine with that. It's sort of fits into the silliness of the statement. But this is I don't know, maybe let's look at it this way. If Jeffy Basils saw this, maybe he wouldn't be so angry and destroy my possibility of ever getting a parcel in the mail again, because I called him hot sexy. Huh? Yeah, that's what happens. That's how it works. Oh, I got a brush in there. I don't know how to pull that off. So, okay. So here we are there. We've got the hot sexy down. Now, again, excuse the noise for just a second. I'm coming at it from an angle. Frank Salazar, everybody. Frank Salazar is showing this. So I'm coming at the hairdryer here from an angle so that I can try to maybe even push a little bit of this ink as we're trying to dry it up just a little bit, just so it becomes a little more workable in a second without too much rough smudging. So sorry for the noise. All right, happy. So I've got a piece of paper towel again. Sorry. And I'm just going to dab what remaining little wet bits are here. Okay, so this is bleach. The only time you see Jeff Bezos with a hairdryer, everybody. Well done, Seven. This is bleach. And so I have bleach in a reservoir. I have a couple reservoirs that I use. One's water, that's the clear one, and the blue one is bleach. And so what I'll do is that I'm just going to little spray, and watch the fun. So it's going to do whatever it wants to do with that ink now. And part of the fun of that is that, hey, Paul paid, everybody. Welcome aboard, Paul. Part of the fun of spraying the bleach over top of the the ink that you've just laid down is it's now going to do this wonderful little separations. And again, I'm going to come in with the dryer in a second, and I'm just going to try to dry this a little bit so that it holds fast for some of these cute functional little things that we've got. I just want to pull off the excess. Sorry, I just want to pull off the excess there. But, and I don't want to lose this, what we've got out of this texture. So it kind of gives that same sort of a method of, when you're working, I don't know if you've ever used spray paint or not, but when you've got that spray paint coming out of the end of the can, and you can put different heads on your thing, but you can also modify that tip so that it spatters in different ways and gives you little textures. And as you layer things over top of themselves, as you're doing that spray, you're going to get all kinds of cool modulations in that. So I'm just going to dry this a little bit more. Just give me 1 second. I'm going to try to pull this here out without disrupting reality. And then I'm going to come around with the white, and I'm going to push a little bit, of value around this. So I chose the image that I chose of Basils because I wanted him to look a little bit concerned about what I've said. Because it's complicated like that, you got to find some fun in whatever you're doing. And if there's one thing I'm good at, it's making everything ridiculous. And so I'm going to come in here with a gesso. And the reason I'm going to use gesso is that gesso has this wonderful, solid, sort of a meaty application, as opposed to using like an acrylic paint, whether it's from tube or from jar or anything else. I dropped my brush. That gesso allows you a real punch of white as you're working. So we're going to do that. We're going to put a little bit of that meat and potatoes on here. So even though I've laid down this this bleach onto the image, and I can still go over it with the gesso, and that's only from trial and error. So that I figured out that gesso goes over most everything. Okay, so I've got my brush loaded up. So now I'm going to put my, come on, baby, a solid punchy line. You know what I could also do? Actually, let's try this. All that talk, and here we're going to try something different. I'm complicated, folks. Okay, so I'm not sure how this is going to hold, but we're going to use the paint markers. And then I'm going to come back in here in a second after this is dry. And I'm going to punch those little blue lines back in because I like them. Oh, you bugger. Here we go. So I don't know how clear that's coming out in the image, but yeah, a lot of fun in the sun. So this is a kind of a marbling effect that you can get if you're using it for backgrounds, or if you're using it for like, man, I just want some sort of little twist on that, some little some little flip on the surface that I'm working. Like, let's say, hey, I'm rusting up a car, throwing some bleach down on that works pretty well. Or, you know, I want to show some kind of earthen texture. You know, you can lay down that brown and hit that bleach on it. And it's not just exclusive to the browns. You know what I'm talking about. It's like any color that you want to use it for. And then go after with the bleach and watch what it does to those different colors. If you've got a cool black ink, and it's different inks do different things. So try it out first. But if you've got a cool black ink that you like, when you go at that ink with a bleach, what's going to happen is that subdued value that's inside that ink, like let's say it's a cool blue or some purples or things like that, or it's going to blend that purples into reds and stuff like that, depending how much bleach you put on there and how much it's saturated and how much you let it just work into the space. That's going to give you different things that are going to come out of your simple application of ink. And that's kind of nice. Noise again, sorry. So the whole reason that I'm blow drying is to just expedite the drying of the application that I just put down, so I can jump right into the next meaty thing. So you know, it's just about having fun, folks. It's just about throwing whatever at the wall, seeing what sticks, and finding your fun in that. There's no clear set of rules that says things have to be a certain way. So now I'm just going to throw some fun lines inside here. As my phone alarm starts going off. Hey, it's 4 o'clock, you maniac. It's 4 o'clock where I am. I'm not sure what time it is where everybody else is. Okay, so all this is doing is enhancing that internal area, but I'm throwing some of these rough hash lines there, like I've used throughout the rest of the image, in order to, again, uniformly apply that through everything. And it also has I think it has a cool and fun effect inside the image. So, and that green that I'm using right now is really uniformly close to the blue that I've used as the shadow base throughout the body. It's 3 o'clock in South Texas. Oh, there's Jim Luan. Hey, welcome back, Jim. Thanks very much, sir. Appreciate that. So try the bleach out, folks. See, you can see now when I'm throwing the wax pencil crayon over top of the same area, keeping those uniform marks like I'm doing everywhere else, how it punches that different statement inside of there. It's sort of, and as it carries through into the bleached area, because of the wax, it's chunky now. And so that chunky yellow line starts moving through that same area. And those are the fun things that you get in those applications by pushing different mediums into each other that you might not necessarily consider of. And if you draw, like, let's say I draw a city scene in a background in a light blue or something like that, do some crazy washes of value over it, some yellows, some oranges, some browns, come in with that, the bleaching, the spattering, the spraying of bleach, and it does this friscolation of the values. You're going to have some crazy backgrounds that just sort of just root your characters in a different environment, you know, and it's exploring those different things with different techniques that we're going to find all kinds of opportunities for himself. Yep. There's Jim, ladies and gentlemen. I hope this has been helpful for anybody that's been jumping in here. It's just having some fun with some marks. And the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to root some of this orange in that we've got so much characteristically on the face and so much definition throughout here. And I'm going to do I'm just going to push this a little bit more outside of that white shape. And I've used, the reason that I use that paint marker is that I just want a sort of consistency of the depth of the line, and those markers are kind of nice for that. But again, I'm not having to stick to any hard and fast rules of how I put these pencil marks down, because, hey, the more little shake and bake we do around this, the more it makes it move around in our surface area. And it has some fun. Lines are fun. But try stuff like this, folks. Just play. It's in the playing that we find different ways of saying things that we might not have done before. And one of the things that really annoys me is when people hold on. They hold on so tight that this is how I work. I don't want to give up my secret sauce. And man, come on. It's a dialogue. This is communication. This is us learning to talk a different way. This might be the only way some of us know how to talk. But you're going to spend X amount of time sweating this out. Why not have some fun? See if somebody else wants to play with it too. And you're going to learn different things off each other. Anyways, I'm really enjoying how the hot sexy is jumping off the background now. I've done with mediums before. I pushed a tarot card reader into a crystal ball fortune teller. Frank Salazar, ladies and gentlemen. When you were painting that letter H, it looked like a space fighter from Star Wars. Oh, all right. Well, that's association, right? We associate things. I misplaced my digital tablet stylus. I can't get any digital art done until I find it. You always got pencils and pens, man. You always got pencils and pens. And even if you don't have pencils and pens, there's probably something that you can make some marks with that you might not have considered otherwise beforehand. You got a camera in your phone, put together some crazy images, with your camera that you can utilize later on. And so I'm just going to do one last thing to this. Now that I've got some crazy letters here, I'm just going to emphasize them one little bit more with that blue. Just a couple little lines. Not too much, just something. I don't know if I put any orange inside that. We'll get to it. All right. Cool beans, Ben Vereen's. This is just a piece of crappy artboard, or not artboard, but Bristol that I'm doing this on. I gessoed it. It's actually a printed image from that I give as a handout. When people buy my books at cons, I give out little prints of book covers and things that I've done. And so I just gessoed that sucker up. That's what you can see around the outside edge of the image. But I kind of like the space around the image because it gives it just a little bit more tooth, a little more jive, just more marks. And that parts of that might leak through into the surface image. Hey, it's just more character, right? Okay, there's hot sexy. Right on, there we go. All right, so that's the meat and potatoes of it. I thought I'd do a Jeffy Basils painting to go along with the comic that I posted that I did this weekend from a conversation I had with my two oldest grandkids. They just were randomly telling me stuff, and they told me about the Bezos dance. And yeah, I was a little surprised by some of that intensity of that. But, hey, the kids are going to be exposed to other things by other kids at school these days. What are you going to have? So the only other thing I could do to give this one more little punch is to go around inside that space with the black line that would actually root it closer to the character here, so that we got a little bit of equal measure on both sides. But again, I don't do solid black lines. Just little punches, little, little bits along the way. And the eye of the viewer is going to fill it in. We don't need to do that for them. They're going to make sense of that for us, right? That's how the human eye works, is that it's looking for patterns. It's looking for shapes. It's looking to fill in blanks. It likes being challenged. So if we can find some of that in here, hey. Yeah, see, this makes it connect a little more to the actual picture of the dude on that side. And it sort of unifies the image by putting this little bits of outline inside those letters. But again, just play. See, I really like what's going on. I'm going to pull this up. I really like what's going on in here. And hopefully when I scan this, some of this is really going to turn out so that you can see some of these fun little things a little bit more than I think that this crappy overhead camera I have is doing. I needed to set the cameras up in this way because I was finding to have this tight camera over top of me was really limiting what I could do. Because I likes to get in and play. I likes to get in there and play with some, There we go. Thank you, Paul, for validating the Jeffrey Basils song in the car, huh? I'm sorry, Paul. It's I know that my kids that are in their 20s were listening to that song, but I didn't know that my grandkids were. There's a lot of effing and jeffing. Well, literally jeffing. Then I'm surprised that they're, for some reason you think your young ones are innocents. Or at least I hope anyways. But no, they're my grandkids. Who are we kidding? I've corrupted them to some extent. All right, there's Hot Sexy. Okay, so this has been fun. Some of the things that I used in here, we've got acrylic paints. I put down a satin gloss finish at one point to separate my layers, and which is usually a satin varnish, which is usually something you coat your paintings in to give them that matte, smooth finish that looks like everything is of an equal level. A gloss medium makes things punch up, but these are two different things that people use in their acrylic paintings so that they can, look like they're oil paints. Let's be honest. But I use that with a roller, a simple sponge roller, and I push that around to flatten the image out. Now I can go over this again with another sponge roller coat in order to tamp this down, so there's going to be no further diffusion of the bleach into the inks. I can, then work on top of that surface again if I needed to or I wanted to. But that works well. It's 600 times. That's a lot of times to be forced to listen to things. And you don't know until you sit down and pay attention to the lyrics for a second. You're like, holy crap. They're exposed to it. There's nothing we can do about it, as much as we like to say we want to control what kids hear or don't. That, it's surprising what little people are listening to at school today. My one grandson, his teacher plays the gorillas in their classroom, and he's 8. So there's no control over it anymore, folks. So there's the bleach that I've put in here. I also did some water spritzer in here. This is the water, that's the bleach. And this is just household bleach, right? But then make sure you tamp it off. Make sure that you dry it out. If you don't have a fan when you're working mixed and you're trying to work fast and into layers, get a fan, get a palm fan. My fan's huge, which is ridiculous, but throw some paint down, throw some pencil crayon down. Yeah, definitely try not to shelter kids too much, because then those kids are going to get devoured by the kids at school. I agree with that. So it's just lots of layers and lots of fun in the sun. We did some paint markers. I sponged on some gesso at the beginning of it all. And yeah, just build up and have fun and play with it a little bit. So that's that. I'm going to scan this beast and put it together and post it up today, I think. But if there's anything else that people, I don't know, if there's some of the stuff in my, I'm going to move the camera for a second. This is, well, now you can't see it for a ding dong, but that's all right. Yeah, now I made a mess of this one. That's all right. Who really needs to see me? Over here is the amount of things that I work with. This is my little side desks. This is why I say, man, I got to sort this out a little bit more. And if you look down on the shelves below, give me a sec. Bear with me with the crazy. Okay, so there's trays and trays and trays of additional stuff in here as well, and ink stamps and Contes and graphites and chalks and more paints and even more down in these tubs and different fixatives and surface things. So there's so many different things that we can use. And in the making of our images, there's so many different things that we can play with that are going to add so much more depth and resonance to what it is that we're putting together. So play, have fun, play. And if there's any questions that anybody has or anything that I can walk anybody through what I know about how different medium work together or different fun shtick you might want to try. I do an awful lot of this, and I didn't do much of it in this image today, but I'll take a bunch of scraps of whatnot or tape, and I put tape into the surface as I'm working on stuff. So I'm a big proponent of that, and I can do a little more of that. The last 3 videos that I did is showing how many different ways that, give me a sec, how many different ways that we can interpret the same thing with different medium. Okay, so I walked through that and did some exampling on additional ways for soft materials, mark making materials, not specifically paint, but everything under the sun. And soft ones, hard ones, pencils, pens, things like that, Contes, chalks, and the like, stamping, modulating the surface a little bit. And if you watch those videos, you'll see a whole bunch of that stuff. And I can do more of that if anybody wants. I'm trying to figure out, in the couple hours that I take to do this stuff each day, what is it that I can do that adds to our artistic pool? What is it that I can show that might help anybody on their exploration, anybody on their journey? So if this helps folks out, I do all this jazz and whatever I'm working on anyways. I'm constantly pursuing little things like, hopefully how you'll see this in the scan, all this little bits on the surface and this action, woo, right, in the letters. So that's what I'm actively trying to figure out. And this is what really keeps me transitioning from traditional to digital, because this is when you're used to working these ways and you're used to working this combinative sort of approach to art, it really feels artificial when you move to digital. And there's just certain things about the interplay of materials together that you're not going to get in the digital world. So yeah, if this is helping folks, or if there's any other ways that I can provide what little I know to how we go about doing stuff, let me know. Put it in the comments after this thing, or apparently comments on YouTube videos help with the algorithm. I don't know what the hell that means. I don't. I'm going to be honest. Because since whenever people make comments on it, apparently it tells more people about the next video that I'm doing. And just type in my comments, Yahtzee! Who cares? But yeah, if this is how I can help, if this is how I can add into this big dialogue, this creative dialogue that we're all having together, I'm down. All right. See, the more I gotta put this away, because the more I look at this, I want to put some red in those letters. I don't make those letters pop. You know what I mean? Like a little bit of red pencil in here, and I will never stop. So at a certain point, you gotta hands up, back away. That's what I'm going to do now. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for jumping in and dialogue, everybody. I really, truly appreciate that. And it's a lot of fun for me. And I'll be back at 2 o'clock tomorrow. Do some more. If anybody has any suggestions, questions, or anything in the meantime, feel free to put them in the comments. But thank you very much, everybody, for hanging out. Thanks very much for that, Seven. And yeah, as well for you, Paul. Great. Thanks for hanging out. Bye for now, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow.